Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Nikshit and today it's my absolute honor and privilege to present to you the very first episode of the Humans of MadTech podcast, HOMT. As a side note, and just in case you're watching the video version and are wondering, the virtual background we've used throughout the interview is the group selfie from the Epsilon Carnival 2019. Basically, the last year gathering together wasn't a health hazard. Let me start by telling you what the HOMT podcast series is all about. At its core, it's about actioning Epsilon's philosophy of humans over hype. It's about putting the spotlight on the human beings who go above and beyond to keep Epsilon on the cutting edge of the marketing and advertising technology industry, MadTech. And most importantly, answer the question we pose to every Epsilonian. What will you think of? And now there's again lockdown. So how are you dealing with all these, the blurred lines between personal, professional life?
But you know what? I must say that I'm constantly amazed at how seamlessly the teams have adapted to the new norms of work. Actually, a step back, right? Loyalty, in the literal sense, what does it mean? I think I would say for somebody who's, kind of in the industry for a couple of years now, not to settle down or not to go with the flow.
Today, I have with me one of the humans of MadTech who has managed to answer our clarion call, Preetham Manjunath. For the few of you who may be unaware, Preetham was recently crowned the Inspiring Leader at the Epsilon India Country Head Awards 2020. Preetham, congratulations on your win and welcome to the HOMT podcast as the very first guest.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nikshit.
So Preetham, to kick things off, tell us a bit about yourself in terms of your role, the work you do, the business unit you lead, overall.
Yeah, sure. So for those of you who don't know me, I am part of the loyalty delivery leadership team. It's been a little over 2 years for me at Epsilon. In fact, Nikshit, the day the awards were presented, I had just completed 2 years the previous day. So
perfect way to celebrate 2 years at Epsilon, huh?
Indeed. But what I was thinking is, about 2 years or so back, when I was going through the interview process and as part of that meeting the leaders in Epsilon, one thing stood out. One thing was common and unfailingly everyone mentioned this. That one thing was about transformation, about how can we get better at what we are doing. And that really was what excited me and helped me make a decision of joining Epsilon. And true to that word, it has been a fascinating 2 years of a journey of transformation in Epsilon. I started with the QA team in 2018. Then last year, we extended that to other aspects of delivery in 2019, and the saga continues in 2020.
Right. And when you say, Preetham, when you say loyalty, right, we all understand loyalty marketing from the perspective, at least on the business side. It's about, you think of sales as customer acquisition, right? And loyalty tends to be customer retention per se. So from that perspective, now that's from the business perspective, right? From a technology perspective, could you throw more light on what loyalty engineering, as you said, what is it about?
Sure. Actually, a step back, right? Loyalty, in the literal sense, what does it mean? It is a strong feeling of support or allegiance. That's the literal meaning of loyalty, right?
Correct.
So loyalty marketing is about putting customers at the center of everything you do to create a emotional connect with the brand, right? That's what loyalty marketing is about, right? So of course, loyalty program is the base of loyalty marketing, but loyalty programs don't create loyalty. A good customer experience at every channel with every interaction and every time does it, right? In that sense, I think loyalty is beyond the program itself or beyond the technology itself. It's many many brands are beginning to understand that loyalty is actually a reverse phenomena, in the sense that it is not as much about the customer being loyal to the brand as it is about the brand being true to the customer and putting the customer at the heart of the business, right? The program helps you do that. The
Mhm.
platform that we've built helps you do that. It provides a framework that rewards customer, and more importantly, it provides invaluable insights and information on what the problems the customer wants to be solved or how they want to be engaged. That insights can then be used to provide customer delight, and as a result, put customer back in the heart of the business.
Perfect. So it's, I would say, almost, to put it in one line, it's almost a holistic way of looking at marketing, right? Would that be fair, or would there be more to it?
Well, I mean, see, marketing is a broad function, right? But
Correct.
so loyalty helps you address the core of marketing, which is customer, and address them in a way that you're bringing them into the front and center of your business. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And so, in terms of the current times that we're living in, right? How are you coping, thriving in this, new normal? I think that's a word that's very abused at this point of time. I think uh, the new strange, as Rishad Tobacco Wala refers to it. I think, how are you coping with this, right? In
Yeah.
terms of, there was lockdown and there was unlock, and now there's again lockdown.
Yeah.
So, how are you dealing with all these, the blurred lines between personal, professional life, especially as the inspiring leader, right? How is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, these are no doubt challenging times, right? But you know what? I must say that I'm constantly amazed at how seamlessly the teams have adapted to the new norms of work. I mean, the grit and resilience demonstrated by everyone is truly exemplary. Yes, there is certainly the blurring of lines between personal and professional lives. And I guess, like all others, I'm figuring out ways to balance this out as well, right?
Mhm.
Um, what has helped me maintain this sense of balance is actually having a routine and a schedule for the day, right?
Yeah.
I think when we entered into the lockdown, at least me personally, I never envisaged this going to be this long
Mhm.
or longer than what it is today, right? So those days it was like, yeah, I would sit down wherever I want and work from wherever I want within my house. But then I realized that having a specific workplace
Mhm.
helped. So it's these small rituals, right? Making sure you have a designated dedicated workspace. Um, Dressing in office wear. In fact, you'd find me putting on my work shoes at home. So there's a point in time you wear this, and then at the end you kind of take your shoes off. It is a sort of a mental note to say, yeah, this is the time now. I'm entering into my personal realm. So these small rituals help. Um, uh, Also, I consciously spend a couple of hours with my family. It could be playing some board games, or painting with my 5-year-old, or just chatting away in the balcony with my kappa. These moments do give a semblance of normalcy and sanity back. And I
Mhm.
try to do this every evening. It rejuvenates me, and I'm all set for the calls that go late. So I would definitely recommend this to everyone to try and switch off mentally from work for a couple of hours, else it can get to you.
Mhm. You're basically, what you're doing is recreating, elements of, your typical, what was the normal days, right?
Absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
you're
As far
doing,
as
right?
possible. Yeah. Yeah. And on a lighter side, Nikshit, the lockdown has helped me discover nooks and corners of my house that I didn't know existed.
Do you have some renovation plans? It seems everyone is like renovating their house. They've got new plans for, office setups and.
Well, a little bit of changes. I wouldn't call it a renovate per se, but a little bit of changes to, sort of create a working space. Now I have two daughters and a working spouse, so we need four places where we are, we have our privacy. So setting up those spaces, certainly, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been binging on Instagram. There's a whole section of setups, right? So how office setups, ideal setups are. So yeah, that's something I'm completely into, setting up my, home office kind of a thingy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I hear home office furnitures is the one which is a top seller in most of the
exactly.
online furniture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you go on any e-commerce portal, all the office furniture and anything related to office setups is sold out. So yeah,
yeah,
I guess that's
yeah,
where all the money is at this point of time,
yeah.
right? And on a more serious note, right? What do you think are going to be the implications of the current pandemic, right? Uh, uh, and I'm saying that in terms of the wider business and technology ecosystems, because the world has never faced something like this, right? So, what do you think is how is it going to pan out?
Yeah. I think the single most impact that I have seen is an accelerated digital transformation, right? Um, while this has been a buzzword for a couple of decades now, many companies have already dabbling in it. COVID has made it a requirement, right?
Mm,
And there's no escaping that. And by digital transformation, I mean the use of technology by businesses in a way that they engage with both employees and customers, right? It could be in helping employees work from home, the myriad collaboration tools and virtual conferencing tools that are provided. Um, it's just that technology now exists to deliver this immersive interactive digital experiences. Businesses are re-engineering their processes in unexpected ways, right? Everything from poker tournament to music
mm,
festivals are thriving online, right? Our country head awards
correct.
presentation is one such example. I guess new cases are popping up, Nikshit. Take for example something that I personally experienced. Right, so my father is diabetic and needs regular visits to the clinic for his checkups.
Mhm.
Given the pandemic situation, I was wary of having to take him out to a clinic lest he gets infected. Right, telehealth came to my rescue.
Mhm.
The doctors are now available for online consultation. We have modular equipments that we could have at home to run the blood tests at home itself. So without having to really step out, I can get the blood test done. I can share that reading. I can get the consultation that I need.
Mhm.
It becomes seamless, right? So there's just I guess in terms of what we will see is a whole new different business models that emerge for all existing businesses. Yeah.
Right. And do you think this is it? It's all going to be online, is the offline. Do you think there's a middle ground, or is it going to be more of this, more of online, more of digital? Is offline going to go for a toss? What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's going to be a blend of both. It's just that what is the percentage of online versus offline is what's going to be the question mark, right? And also, it's going to vary from industry to industry. If you take e-commerce as an example, uh, I think about 15 to 20% of the overall business of most of the e-commerce thing would be online. The rest would be offline
Correct.
pre-COVID days. Maybe that number is going to change. You're going to have more takers online, right? Again, automatically you would have seen so many the common e-commerce platforms like Amazon Fresh or Big Basket coming into the fore for most of the home delivery. So there's going to be a change there. I don't think we can. I don't think offline is going to do away. There are going to be quite a lot of industries which has a more high touch and feel. So you'll have that. It will coexist, but it'll
Mm,
coexist in a different avatar.
mm. It's interesting you should say that, because I think in the early stages, right? So end of March of the lockdown being announced, while trying to actually book orders on e-commerce stores, whether it's regular grocery or any other item, you would see there was a lot of backlog. You wouldn't really get a slot And interestingly, that's when offline came into its own. So my
Yeah.
local Kirana person
Yeah.
just came through.
Yeah.
Like there were deliveries, they just swung into action,
Yeah.
used certain messaging
Yeah.
platforms, and
Absolutely.
it's almost like, when initially I think everyone's mindset was, oh, this is it. It's all going to be digital. And even I immediately, despite the fact that I frequent the local stores,
Yeah.
go to a grocery store and pick stuff up. Now I'm like, okay, it's all digital. I can't take a risk. But at the end of the day, they've sort of adapted. So you
Yeah.
never really know,
Yeah.
right, what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a sort of almost a heartening thing that offline also they really
Yeah.
showed
Yeah.
how they can also
Yeah.
step up.
See, I think like you rightly said, Nikshit, I think the offline strength was its supply chain, which came to its rescue in this time. But
Correct.
what you see them adapt is suddenly they were on some sort of a messaging platform, be it WhatsApp or whatever, through which they were able to take digital orders. I mean, I
Correct.
was able to place an order on a WhatsApp
Mm.
business and get that home delivered from my local Kirana store.
Yeah. So it's almost like a hybrid, right? The
Yep,
answer always lies somewhere in the middle,
in
they say,
between.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. So now, Preetham, the $1 million question, right? This is what everyone's tuning into the podcast for, right? And everyone, 2,500 Epsilonians want to know how they can be the inspiring leader, right? So, what enabled you to emerge as the inspiring leader? Some people say, it's all in the daily habits, what a person does, when they're off the limelight, right? Those daily habits, any projects that you worked on, which really, was in your interest area, circumstances maybe, or even team members who sort of lifted you, and anything, what enabled you to emerge as the inspiring leader?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a bit difficult to answer this because uh, I guess deep down, I just do what I do in a way, right? But you're right. I think there are certain work ethics that are kind of inbuilt that has led me through this path. I don't know if it has contributed to to me winning or not, but I think that has helped me in my journey, in my professional journey, right? I've always maintained a routine of sorts, and I've tried to give my best in everything I do to the extent of coming across as somebody who's overtly focused or borderline OCD. Uh, so uh, you should hear that from my team. And if you know me, I'm the kind of person who likes order, who likes a method to and a structure. I'm comfortable in that setup, and someone who needs all the pieces of the puzzle to fit. And I won't rest until they all fit in there, right? Many a times, to my old annoyance, I can't function any other way. Um, but I guess this strive to seek all the answers and get them right has shaped me as an individual, right? If I go back to a year when Prabhu, who leads the loyalty org, me and some of the senior loyalty leaders were working through the vision for team loyalty early part of last year. One thing we agreed unanimously was that we wanted to build an ecosystem where there is freedom to experiment and create vibrant teams where the right questions are asked and the right problems are solved, right? I'll talk about two things that it manifested in. Right? The first one is synergy. Uh, it's a platform where we built where anyone from the team can post an idea on the Synergy website. And subsequently, people interested in working on that idea can nominate themselves and form teams to solve them, right? This, of course, results in new tools or solutions for Epsilon. It provides a fantastic learning opportunity for our associates, and it's a fun way to build a network of like-minded professionals outside your immediate team. We call this democratized innovation.
Mhm. Okay.
So that's something that's gone well, I think, for our teams. The second one is Craft Cafe. Right now,
Mhm.
Craft Cafe is again an outlet for our associates to express their points of view. It's a forum where we meet on a regular basis to talk about all things technology, or even at times all things probably MarTech,
Mm-hmm.
not necessary technology, right? And that fuels the right conversations. It's
Mm-hmm.
about getting the focus on the kind of things that we need to try, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
things that we need to solve. We also get many external speakers to talk in this forum. I
Mm-hmm.
simply love the energy and clash of ideas that sometimes this forum brings in.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of heated discussions there, and that's the intent. That's really the intent, because when there's a clash of ideas is when there's new ideas that emerge, or new
Absolutely.
things that emerge. Yeah, I think so. My 2 cents to for whoever is listening, I think it's about asking the right questions. It's about keep learning and reinventing oneself, and never losing the passion to discover new things within yourself and outside. I think that has kept me going, and I'm sure it'll do to all of you as well.
Mm. Ah, that's wonderful. And now, so when you talked about, it really, the ethos was a team, it's all about the culture, right?
Yep.
So from that perspective, in this day and age, right, with the remote setup we have, what are your thoughts on the future of culture building itself,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, what you said, some of the initiatives were when you were able to force people almost to get together in an
Yeah.
environment, and you had to participate, right?
Yeah.
And now you've got this dispersed workforce,
Yeah.
right? So from that perspective, what do you think is how are you going to adapt in the future? How are you going to continue these initiatives and
Yeah.
employee engagement itself?
Yeah. Oh, well, in fact, none of this has stopped. In fact, it's gotten better
Okay.
with this, right? So our craft cafe session has seen about 20-25% increase in the participation.
Oh.
And I think our associates are a lot more focused now with
Uh,
with the online collaboration tools being coming to the fore. Um, yeah, the importance of building an adaptive organization culture can't be overstressed enough, right? And in these crises and difficult situations, it's about this adapting to these cultures and innovating and finding opportunity that really matters. So I think associates would need to get to grip with new ways of working in a home environment where they may need to deal with a number of distractions and conflicting responsibilities, right? You have children schooling from home, a working spouse, there's so many other elements. So there's this personal adjustments that are required in the working style, habits, behaviors. I think the key word then is adapting to these circumstances, and you utilizing the technology that is at our disposal to make it happen, right? For example, we have we meet weekly to just talk about uh, sort of replicate the banter and the fun we used to have at our lunch tables, or uh, coffee over a coffee. So we replicate that by having sessions where we are not necessarily talking about work.
okay.
We're talking about just what's happening, just general thing, not no fixed agenda, right? So that trying to get that simulate those conversations is
Mhm.
what we're trying to do, right? And I think with this change also, it provides more freedom and flexibility with teleworking, isn't it?
Mm.
um, but it also is associated with the need for greater personal responsibility. So the emphasis is kind of shifting from uh, being there in the office for a duration of time to just getting the job done, and the focus is on getting outcomes rather than being there in that
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And in terms of now moving to more focusing on you, right? In terms of your background, right? So now you are an industrial engineer, right?
Mm,
And even your professional work experience has been across, you worked across software development, you've got IT consulting, you worked in e-commerce, the retail side of things, to now you working in a MadTech firm, as we like to call it, right? Tell us more, right, in terms of how your background has shaped who you are, and especially because coming from and being a industrial engineer to now being involved in technology, that whole movement.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I am an industrial engineer by training, but computers were always part of the school days onwards. In fact, my first tryst with computers, I remember, was in my 5th grade. We start off with basics as the programming language, and ever since it's been a constant companion. If not serious programming, at least the video games and the likes, right? So I actually readily jumped onto the IT bandwagon when the first company came hiring to my campus in 2000. I didn't find it a very difficult decision to make. It seemed quite natural to do it. I know the dot-com bubble was there around the corner, but there was a lot of exciting things happening in the technology world, in the computers world, right? The Y2K problem was one other thing that was taking on, which almost created an industry in itself. So there was a lot of things happening, and it wasn't a very difficult choice, to be honest, Nikshit. And I'm glad I took that, because it has been an exciting ride since then, with stints in software development, including quality engineering, consulting, and also product design and engineering, right? So it has given me exposure to a multitude of cultures, and has been a fabulous learning experience through and through.
So safe to say you have no regrets.
Absolutely none.
Right. So now when you talk about, MarTech itself, right? MarTech or AdTech, you're looking at an industry which very few people know, right? So what are we talking about? We in the US, you've got a $120 billion industry, right? But in India, it's still in its infancy, right? Estimates are it's a
True.
100 million to $150 million
True.
industry, right? And of course, the expectation is this is going to rapidly
Yeah.
increase over the next decade, at least, for
Yeah.
sure, without a shadow of a doubt. So what are your thoughts in terms of that? Do you, and especially because as at least from a consumer perspective, forget the fact that we work in MarTech and ad tech. The idea is everyone knows fintech, for example, right? There are a whole bunch of startups, well-known applications which we all use. So fintech, for example, is much more popular. But
Yeah.
I think MarTech is more behind the scenes, sort
Yeah.
to say. So what are your thoughts in terms of this landscape?
Yeah. I mean, again, interesting times, right? Um, if you look at the history of, I'm digressing a bit, Nikshit, but if you look at the history of life on Earth,
Mhm.
right, there is a relatively short time that produced the most intense burst of evolution ever
Mhm.
known, right? This is known as the Cambrian explosion,
Okay.
which saw an incredibly diverse set of life emerge, including many of the major animal groups that are alive today, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you look at MarTech
Mhm.
landscape, there were around 150 solutions at the start of the decade in 2011. In
Yeah.
2020, that number has grown to 8,000, right? That's 5,233% growth. That's the Martech's Cambrian explosion right there, right? In fact, analysts are calling this the first golden age of Martech, a
Uh-huh.
period that has seen unprecedented growth in the number of solutions, the marketing spend, and consequently, the marketing technologist workforce itself has grown in numbers, right? I think the next couple of years would be a challenging age of reckoning
Mhm.
for this current generation of marketing technology ventures. Given the pandemic situation, there's going to be a bit of a drying up of funds. So there's bound to be consolidation, right?
Mhm.
But on the other side of this would be the next big wave of MarTech. People are already calling it the second golden age, right?
Mhm.
And the emerging trend here is experts blending software and services to deliver outcomes, right? What it means is you had software vendors, you had services vendors, you have creatives, right? Multiple functions of a marketing stack. But as technology changes are at an exponential rate, it's
Mhm.
almost a exponential rate, but organizational changes are at the logarithmic change,
Correct.
right? And this change gap widens over time.
Mhm.
So clients have never been in more need of help than they are today on this. And this is where we as Publicis Epsilon are extremely well poised to ride this wave with a unique mix of creative agency, technology, and data.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm excited. I think we are in fantastic times. We should look forward to that.
absolutely. People would say, "Oh my God, there are 8,000." What is the number you said? 5,000, 8,000 vendors.
8,000, 8,000.
8,000. Okay, and people will be, isn't that stagnation? You're saying this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be consolidation, but I think consolidation also in the form of services that one offers, or the uh, getting these diverse functions of MarTech together, of creatives, uh, social media, technology, data, all of them coming together and creating a MarTech platform. Because I don't think, barring a few and far, we don't have solid platforms on the MarTech space.
Mhm. Understood. So suffice to say, there's a bright future ahead.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that.
Right. So you mentioned the fact that you started your career in 2000, right? And that was the time the dot-com bubble burst. You had the Y2K crisis. What was it? I have no idea about it, but I've heard of Y2K all throughout, right? And here you are. Uh, Almost you're going to complete 20 years, right,
Yeah,
in the corporate world, as they call it. And this is going to be on December 2020, right?
that's
So
right.
do you have a celebration planned to what would your advice be to to begin with, say both the mid to junior members in the organization, right? They, you're looking at and we'll get to the new entrants, right? The
Sure,
class of 2020, of course, we'll get to later, but
sure,
at least the mid to junior ranks in the organization, what would you tell them?
sure. I mean, I think I would say for somebody who's kind of in the industry for a couple of years now, not to settle down or not to go with the flow, right? I would always advise him or her to figure out what excites them, and then spend a few more years, if required, to get more proficient in that technology or field.
Mhm.
Don't worry about the titles. Don't worry about the compensation. I know it may not sound right for a lot of people, but I strongly believe, right, in the long run, these titles and compensations are always the consequence,
Mhm.
and it's a consequence of your investment towards becoming proficient in your skill.
Mhm.
So invest time and energy into learning and acquiring new skills. Only then you can be in it for a long haul,
Mhm.
right? Um, and for those who spent a little more than a few years, I think it's a little bit about also balancing your life, spending time on yourself, and keep a good work-life balance going, right? At this juncture, also, it's important that you should take a checkpoint of where your professional life is heading. Figure out how relevant your skills are in the market for the next 20 years
Okay.
or 10 years, right? Because technology is changing so rapidly. Maybe 20 seems like a lifetime. Yeah, maybe next 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it is. It's a rapidly revolving world of technology is exploding at a never before seen pace, right? So always upskill, reskill, and be relevant. I think in short, it's about being a student for life, being curious, and investing in yourself to keep abreast with the changes in technology and industry.
Mm. And to okay, these professionals have a sense of where they're going, right? Now, that's the junior to the mid level, to the class of 2020, right? For them, and this has been well documented. You've seen efforts to reach out to the class of 2020 throughout, right, by global CEOs. And this generation of students has been dealt a raw deal to a large extent, just because of the, and this is stuff which is beyond their control. It's
Yeah.
not their fault, right? And for them, as they enter the workforce, right? What are your, you know, how would you want them to approach this, long journey they have ahead of them, right? And yeah, and shout out to the 140 plus fresh graduates who joined Epsilon India last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's your word of advice to all the new graduates who are entering?
All right. I think first up, I want to congratulate the 140 plus fresh graduates, and wish you all the very best on an exciting journey ahead of you at Epsilon as you enter into a new world. I think in 2020, this is more like entering into a brave new world, right? Where the new norm is staying at home.
Uh,
It is exponentially harder time to make this transition from a student life to a professional life, right? But to borrow the opening line from one of my favorite novels, The Tale of Two Cities, this could be the best of times. This could be the worst of times, right? And in many ways, it will be up to you to determine how this goes, how much change you can tolerate, how much of it you can demand, right? See, for folks who've already embarked on the professional journey, the frame of reference is always a bit reactive, right? We are talking about going back to work. We're talking about returning back to normalcy, right?
mm,
But for the class of 2020, it's about looking forward.
right,
There is no baggage of professional habits that they carry.
right.
So you are very well poised to append deeply rooted habits and patterns of behavior. In other words, you are fantastically placed to challenge status quo. Right? So in these times, um, being comfortable to change becomes a superpower.
Ah,
And becoming change agents that usher in new ways of working is what everyone is looking up to this class of 20. At least me personally, I enjoy that working with people coming out of college because they have such nice new perspectives to things.
right.
It's a fantastic learning experience for me, right? Um, but if I were to just give three things that kind of would help you in that journey, I think three mantras, so to speak.
Mhm.
It's one is to discover with curiosity. Right? Being curious will spark an endless appetite for learning. Um, Maintaining this learning and a self-driven mindset will help you achieve mastery over your craft and whatever that craft is. It could be programming, testing, authoring requirements, whatever your chosen field is, right? Your proficiency of your craft will determine how quickly and how far you go ahead in your journey. um, then experiment continuously, because once you've built a good understanding of the domain of your work and acquired a certain expertise of the platforms, of our platforms, businesses, and technologies, you got to harness it to try new approaches to solve problems. Uh, my manager calls it Wuja Day,
Okay.
right?
Wuja.
It's the reverse of deja vu. Right? It's
Oh,
Wuja
okay,
Day.
okay.
I know it's a real word actually.
Oh,
And I googled it up after he said it. So
I'm planning to do that next.
it is about solving old problems with a new approach, with a new lens, and that would be the strength of you guys to be able to do that, right? And last but not certainly last, not the least, is about creating winning relationships. It's about reaching out to people within and outside your immediate teams, engaging with them to solve common problems together. You'd be amazed with the different perspectives you get on the work itself, on the industry trends, which kind of helps you tie back to the first one of discover with curiosity.
Hmm.
So my three mantras: discover with curiosity, experiment continuously, and create winning relationship.
Ah, I, it looks like what you're describing is, what they call the VUCA world, right? Which
Yeah,
is the volatile,
volatile, uncertain,
uncertain, yeah, complex,
and
ambiguous.
yeah,
We've heard that, I think, for a decade now, but
yeah.
suddenly I think this is the year of reckoning, right?
It
2020 is
is.
that kind of year,
Absolutely.
right? So okay, so done a lot of business talk, Preetham. So beyond work, right? And since we are on a podcast right now, what are your favorite podcasts?
Ah, um, the ones I never miss, the three of them. Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman.
Mhm,
There's Knowledge Project by Shane Parrish.
mhm,
And there is The Seen and the Unseen by Amit Verma.
mhm,
These three are my absolute no misses.
mhm,
And then, of course, there's quite a few that gets recommended, but depending on the episode, I do watch. But
mhm.
these three are my
Mhm.
regulars.
Can you tell us a bit about each of these three?
Yeah.
In terms?
So the Seen and the Unseen is a good mix of. It talks about economics and social behavior and
Mhm,
policy making. Right. It's a nice mix of the three. And for someone like me, I haven't been too much into any of these three topics. But
mhm,
the way he treats the topic and the way he brings in the experts to have conversations around these topics are refreshing because you see multiple views there being discussed rather than the polarized views that you tend to
mhm,
see in some of the more mainstream media. So that's what excites me about the seen and the unseen. Uh, Masters of Scale, of course, is about it's mostly around how startups are tackling their challenges that they have. The recent one I was looking at is crowdsourcing
okay.
and how crowdsourcing was used by a startup called Duolingo, uh,
Mhm,
which helped in uh, translating languages.
okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
So Masters of Scale is that, and Knowledge Project again is a lot about mental models.
mhm,
It's a lot about some of the uh, dare say softer skills that one engages in. So it again is a lot. It helps me reflect back on my actions and look at some of our own irrationality in the way we make decisions. So it's a lot about the mental models.
mhm. So all of the podcast listening is outside of your industry, right? You're looking at almost different facets of the world.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
yeah, and anything in the MarTech space that you would recommend?
Uh, I do listen again based on the uh, episodes itself. There's MarTech. There's
Mm.
one podcast called MarTech Stack. I think I'm not
Huh.
getting the right name. But on the MarTech world, my always go-to has been Scott Brinker's
Ah.
the chief MarTech company.
For those
Uh,
of them who do not know, could you tell a little bit about Scott Brinker?
yeah, I mean he's kind of um, almost like the guru of MarTech. I would say he popularized the concept of MarTech and AdTech
Mhm.
to a large extent, and he does this phenomenal work of tracking the industry's growth. The numbers that I just spoke to you about some time
Ah,
back comes directly from some of
yes.
his articles. He has this every year. He creates a Lumascape, which
Yeah.
maps every solution that's available in the Martech world. So everything and all things about Martech, I would highly recommend that website,
Yeah, that's chiefmartech.com, right?
chiefmartech.com.
Yeah, yeah. I have been following that Lumascape for 8 years now, and it keeps getting more and more ridiculous every year. You're like, you just open it. First of all, I think you need 10 screens
Yeah,
to actually
yeah,
calculate that. But yeah, I think that's our almost go-to. If you want to learn more about Martech, I think that one resource is more than enough,
is more than enough. Absolutely.
right? And in terms of what are your passion areas beyond work, Preetham, if we may ask you that?
Sure. um, I think I like to spend time with my close set of friends that I have. I do have a lot of acquaintances, but very select close buddies.
Mhm.
So usually it's spending time with them or spending time with my family, which is sacrosanct.
Mhm.
It's usually the never-ending questions from my 5-year-old
Mhm.
or the budding teenager at home. I have 2 daughters. That is the antidote for life's pressures, otherwise for me, right? And I think bettering and reinventing myself is not limited to just professional life. So in every walk of life, I try to do that. So when my girls are not keeping me busy, you'd find me with a book or listening to a podcast on myriad topics, from sociology to economics, just about anything that catches my fancy. Or sometimes it's gardening, playing a sport, or just doing a binge watching over the weekend is what you'd find me doing.
So what's the latest series you're hooked on to? Oh, in the
Well,
week, of course.
yeah. I mean, I am that. I think I'm one of the rare persons who would not have watched Game of Thrones so far,
Oh my God.
right? So that's the one that I'm currently trying to complete. Game of Thrones is what is
I
on my
have a
list.
Game of Thrones themed mug right here. This is what they drink, in case you can't. So perfect. Perfect, Preetham. I think on that point of time, we can wrap it up. It's been over an hour. I don't think either of us would have guessed it. I've got the timer right here.
Oh wow.
But but thank you so much for dialing in. And for the listeners, now this is the very first episode. We'd like to hear your comments, your feedback. I have a feeling we'll need an encore, Preetham. We'll see what the audience tells us, right? So maybe we'll have episode 2 featuring Preetham again with a Q&A session. So until the next time, thank you so much for joining in. And we're hoping to push more content your way through the humans of MadTech. So watch out, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Nikshit. It's been a wonderful 1 hour for me. Thank
Thank
you
you.
once again for having me.